I accidentally pressed stop instead of pause, but nothing happens for no particular reason. Okay, so what I say this? I say, may we rise, never fall. Love does not require manipulation. If you are manipulating others, you only manipulate yourself. May we see truth in all things and align accordingly to know the truth and still align in love. To know the truth and still align in love frequency. So that means if you didn't get the first part of this, go back on my YouTube page and click part 1, then come back here. Because it's a perfect, I thought the other one was a perfect segue, but this is a perfect segue to talk about what I really would like to talk about, and it's the heart space stuff. Okay? Love does not require manipulation. Hear it again. Love does not require manipulation. If you're manipulating others, you only manipulate yourself. May we see truth in all things and align accordingly to know the truth and still align in love. All right, I gotta take a pause. Okay, in part 1, I spoke about this idea of alignment. I spoke about the idea in seeking truth, connecting with God consciousness, and most importantly, taking responsibility. That one is the hard part for everybody to do usually. They really want to see God as outside of themselves. But as you're walking this life, you will turn and see, even when your ancestors pass away, you realize you are your ancestors. You are them. Okay? And in the spiritual, it's the same thing. You are the frequency of God as so you choose. As so you choose, because the greatest gift that God has given his children is the freedom of willpower. Willpower dictates it all. Okay? If you want to be a child of God, you will be aligned with the child of God frequency. If you want to understand God, you will. You will. It's a will thing. If you do not, you'll be where you are on that frequency level, wherever you are. All right? And that's a beautiful gift. This is why even in my past love relationships, I've always say you have the freedom. You are not enslaved. Because there's nothing worse, I think, than trying to train someone that you love. Okay? I give you the freedom to do what you want to do. Okay? And not no strings like this stringy thing. Okay? It is one of my greatest ways to show love is through freedom. Okay? But freedom does not mean you move without consequence. Okay? You have the freedom to do what you want to do and then make decisions accordingly. Okay? I always say that you have to learn in order to see the truth in things. Okay? Because like I said, when you're younger, in spiritual form, when you're younger in actual physical form as well, you're going to test and turn. You're going to try to see what you get away with. You're going to see like, oh, this yields this result. And you have to allow people that freedom and space in order for them to figure it out. That's life. That's literally what life is, because no one really comes with a playbook. And then before you come and be like, the Bible exists. Yes. But that's a living word. That's why you see things in the Bible that's happening right now, is because people are living words of books. Right? Right now, I'm still writing the book of Shamika. I'm still writing the book of Meek the Minx. All in one, of course. I know I'm not separate from these identities. But it's the idea of what I'm saying, is that the book is still being written. Okay? These are books that have passed that you can learn from, that people learn from. And not only that, some people live the storylines of the people who wrote those things in the book, because there's nothing really new under the sun. These characters already exist, and they exist within you. So back to what I was initially saying, is that you are your ancestors. You start realizing that you're not separate from your mother. You're not separate from your father, but you can choose in which frequency you are animating in any space and time. Okay? If you know that your auntie or your uncle like to do a particular thing and you do it, you start activating that genetic pool or sequence in order to connect with them. Okay, this is why sometimes when you're around people and you're partaking in certain rituals, i.e., could be eating certain foods, it could be partaking in, it could be alcohol. I will say that alcohol is used in rituals all the time. Now, whether or not you are sending intentions in the rituals, that's why it's good to always say something before you ingest, because you don't know what what was already placing some kind of I'll call it obia, but whatever kind of intention they were initially planting on the drink, right? You're allowing that portal to actually be opened up in your vessel. Okay, so if you know that you have a auntie or uncle who gave reference to a certain drink, when you open that, this was my father's drink. So when I drink this, I know I'm drinking with my father. You channel that genetic coding within you, and you can actually connect to that consciousness of your father from wherever you are. Internal conversations. Okay. Readers, people who are spiritually inclined, who have these kind of gifts, they're able to channel these things whenever it is in alignment to. Okay, I don't want this to start turning into a thing where people are thinking readers are something more chosen than not others. No, there's in your life, there's already people who are assigned certain roles to meet you up in certain space and time to tell you certain things. And not only that, because consciousness never dies. You can't crucify it. So only when it's time to, only when you're ready to hear it, will those people act as a vessel in order to deliver the message, especially if you did not dedicate your life to being a spiritual reader. We exist, and they exist for a reason, to align with certain people at certain times. And we look like many different things. Don't just think because I come on here with locks and a head wrap that, and all of these arcane symbols, that it has to look like this. No, this is just my avenue of illustration of what this is. Okay. But what's most importantly is the resonance of my voice. Okay, so this way, even if you heard me without seeing me with your physical eyes, you will understand what messages is meant for you and what's not. Because before you speak, there's already the unseen above your head that said, Shamika, say this thing, and then I have to filter, this is what I do. It's what I do. Okay? And it's important for people who do this kind of thing to have clean hearts. All right. Now, part of that walk, like the Sangomas of the world, much respect to all you, is that you live. You go through many different things in order to gain the empathy, whether it be you on any side of the situation, to gain the understanding through any side of the situation, in order for you to be able to have a point in order to relate to the people coming up after you, that you have a message to tell them. Okay? Because the way we move is through our heart space, not our mind space. Okay? And a big part of that too is that nothing can actually come between that connection between God, and especially not man. Men cannot be the central focus of the work of this kind of thing. Okay? You just can't. The women who are spiritually aligned in this kind of way, there's a certain path and a certain understanding we can never allow to be changed by men like this. Okay? Because it's an alignment with it's out of alignment with God. If a man is to be with a woman of this kind of energy, they have to be in alignment with God, or else it's going to be problematic in both lives. We cannot be unequally yoked to people. It just cannot exist. Okay, because you've dedicated your life to a bigger purpose than just material gain. Not to say that you cannot live comfortably and other stuff. I don't have to make that disclaimer. What I'm saying is that is not the focus. All right, you're not going to see people like this type of energy calling into Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, where we are saying, I want a man for this, this, and this. This is not the energy. Okay, so back to what the line was. Love does not require manipulation. If you're manipulating others, you are only manipulating yourself. May we see the truth in all things and align accordingly to know the truth and still align in love. Okay, so In my walk, this is not a personal story. This is just from the things that I have seen, not through my own life, but through the lives of many. Okay? What people tend to have is this kind of resentment against their mother figures, because your mother knows you very well because she carried you in her stomach for 9 months. When she's carrying you, you guys are sharing one body, one flesh, and technically a spirit that's merged, right? Her personal spirit and then your spirit that is actually being formed in her womb. So again, as the feminines, as long as they're not trying to be out of their bodies and they're being present during their pregnancy, they should be able to actually talk and understand the child through the empathy of their heart space, as well as the connection, divine connection within. They can hear your thoughts, they can hear all the things that you think, and not only that, it's a communication within. So whatever the external factor is happening to the woman while she's pregnant, the child will feel every single bit of that. Okay, this is why when you see the children are born and they start displaying personality traits, you can see what the mother was going through at whatever time of conception through the birth. Okay, so that's why during times of pregnancy, it's very important that the people around the woman, there's actually women who, or actually people who want what's best, because the child will be very intuitive. They're going to be picking up on everything. There's that funny meme where the baby is finally here and he meets the mom's best friend who is encouraging her to get an abortion. Yeah, they hear everything. They feel everything. Okay, it's a very sensitive time. Okay, like I said, that's the reason why the woman's diet changed too. The foods that the baby likes, all you become one, right? It does seem a little parasitic. I heard that, very funny, but this is what that love is. Okay, so with that being said, because your mother has this intuitive information, she will know how to also, I'm gonna use the word manipulate, but I also hear someone saying softer in the background. It's not really manipulation. It's often to help guide you through the world. Okay, so I know it's a little harsh word to be used, and I don't have my dictionary close by. It's over there, and I don't want to start moving the camera and all this stuff. But in their minds, when your mother is trying to help you, guide you through your life, she has to remain in the role of your mother. Okay, so sometimes it may come off as manipulation depending on what frequency she's currently vibrating at and what space and time you ask or want her to do something, or she wants you to do something. All right, now this relates to the part 1 of this video, because once you start taking responsibility of your own life, you can no longer blame your mother for the decisions that she made to actually have you. That means you have to heal mother and father wounds, because you recognize that all those things were necessary for you particularly to be born and for you to heal from and still love yourself from. Okay? This way, you no longer need to be manipulated, because here's the thing. Mothers tend to feel as if they know best for you. Actually, any parental figure that loves you, right? I doubt that they're actually, I don't know. I definitely just saw the reality in which it exists, in which a parental figure tries to manipulate for their own personal gain. Okay? And I say on to, this is why healing is necessary for you even more so that you can be able to recognize what the truth of the situation is. And actually align yourself with God frequency, because God will never want something that's bad for you unless you want God to want that for you. You understand what I am saying? Read between the lines. Okay? So if you accept that to be a thing, that yes, God wants me to suffer in order for me to, then that's what you will experience. Okay? You have to be mindful not to lose your Godhead. All right? When you're aligned with God, there's no other entity outside of you, including your mother and your father, that can stop you from aligning with your God consciousness. You start taking responsibility for your life and your decisions. Okay? That is when you're really aligned with God consciousness. You say thank you to them. And when you need help, of course, you can channel them according to what area you need help with. And not only that, they also align with that for you too. Okay? But The whole point of why this line was created was because you have to be able to see people in their wholeness and still love them anyway, to include your father and your mother. How can I do that? You have to heal and you have to appreciate your life. Okay? There's love in security. Check out the reading on the page. Okay? Love brings forth security. Security brings forth love. These two things are not separate. If you're moving in a state of insecurity, you will be manipulated. Okay, another thing is that whatever level that you have decided to cultivate a union with, you have to be real about whatever level you enter a union with a counterpart that you're sharing sacral energy with. If during the time of your union, just like conception, if during the time of your union, you are operating on a certain level in your heart space, meaning you don't know, you're not healed, you don't know how to love, you don't know this, you don't know that, you just kind of whatever. Please keep in mind that your mate will be a reflection as to whatever you were during that moment of conception. Or I keep saying conception because I keep thinking like you're having sacral energy exchange in order to give birth. But any sacral energy is what you're giving birth to. Okay, including your life. It may not be flesh because no, sex was not just created for the idea of creating children. It's like procreation of life. Okay, procreation. That energy, that sacral energy, can be used to birth forth a new life. That's why women are portals. We are portals to whatever life you'd like to experience. If you don't keep up that portal, the doors begin to close in that reality, and they will close up in upon themselves. Okay, so when men or people in general who try to manipulate William, women. If you heard it, you heard it, okay? And that was a particular person. When men and women, whoever, tried to manipulate women through their sacral energy in order to create a certain life for themselves, which is a real thing that does happen, and you don't maintain, or that woman begins to open up her eye to her divinity, that reality will collapse as long as you are using that sacral energy for that. Okay? When women are left alone, they naturally just kind of rebalance themselves, and they can feel when they're being siphoned. Okay? And that's when those doors begin to close, the reality starts folding in on themselves. Okay? Anything? Yeah. Give me a pause. Okay, so in the moment of that divine union, let's say you are operating in a lower level frequency, you're moving out of fear, you're only considering monetary things, which is true. You can't tell people what their motivation is going to be. If you're aligning yourself with a particular woman, or if you're aligning yourself with a particular man, please remember that whatever state of consciousness that you are aligning with that person with, that is the reality that you're going to create for yourself. Okay, it's just a matter of time. Okay, so if you're getting with someone and it's just because of their physical looks, you're actually not operating from your heart space. You're actually moving from a place of, I need this, I need that. You're not aligned with their God consciousness. You're moving out of fear. You're moving out of anxiety. You will know if your heart's clean, right? Because if you're doing the shadow work that's required, you're going to start seeing certain aspects of yourself, and you're like, I don't know if when I planted this seed, my heart was in the right place. Okay? Now, what do you do? There's nothing wrong with that. Some people were in relationships for 10, 5, 2, 1, 11 years before they realized that they weren't operating divinity when they started planting the seed, because as you go on your spiritual journey, it's just a matter of time before you start understanding certain things and you start maturing. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's the trick. When you start realizing it, you need to have a real heart-to-heart conversation. Remember, I'm not talking about mind-to-mind. I'm saying heart-to-heart conversation with your partner. And you must see whether or not they're ready to ascend to live in their heart space. It's required for things to actually be maintained, right? You want to live in a reality of love. Let's say you did not know how to properly love yourself in the past, but you have gained the understanding right now that, yes, I need to make sure everything that I do is coming from the frequency of love, not people pleasing, not anxiety, not trying to live in fear because I lack security, I lack land, I don't out of place of lack, period. All right, not from a trying to fill a traumatic space because my ex did this to me way back and I just needed to be with someone to prove that he was wrong or she was wrong. All of that other bullshit needs to go over here. All right, especially when you start to heal and gain understanding and actually integrate what we are talking about in this space, in these type of spaces, into your life. Once that realization's clicked in and you're like, tick, tick, I'm logged in. I'm aligned with God consciousness. I understand that I need my heart space. Okay, once that stuff started happening, you must turn to your partner and you must have real heart-to-heart conversations. I am operating here in my heart space. I realized when we first started getting into this relationship, I required this, this, and this. Not to mention, this may be a little bit hard for a lot of people to hear because I don't think it's either masculine or feminine based because I see it in both situations. Okay, where men get with women either because of their physical things and they want to have sex with them, or very lustful energy. And then it becomes like this thing, wow, no one else is getting her but me, just kind of egoic nonsense, right? Some men just don't want other people to have you. That's another egoic nonsense. And so they literally would dedicate their whole life just so nobody else have you. Again, slavery. But they don't actually truly love you, right? Because you're not a true reflection of who they are. Like I said, moving back. Once you realize that maybe the intention of the union was not planted in the soil of actual love, for oneself is the first thing. If you realize that I was not showing love to myself in the moment in time, I attracted you as a partner, or you became the subconscious reflection of myself in the opposite form. Once I realize that, I owe a conversation. And I need to know where you are spiritually, mentally, and physically, especially emotionally as well, in your heart space, to understand the things that I'm saying. Now, this may not be met well, especially if on their journey they're not where you are. It doesn't mean that they can't ever get there, though, but because maybe this conversation will be a catalyst in order for them to go into shadow work and do the inner work that's required. And this is why sometimes detachment is required. Now, there is a paradigm in which can exist that one person be like, I actually understand what you're saying, because in my own meditation, I have also came to that realization that during our union, I was operating in these type of thought forms were in my aura field that I was feeding a lot of energy into. And on top of that, that's why you at the time was my reflection. You were my reflection because I wasn't doing the things. This is why we bonded. Okay, can we transcend from this together? And so then you're like, we got to go into our own internal meditations and see if we can align under God consciousness, right, of ascension and doing better in the frequency of love. With that being said, it's the idea of knowing that you can move past it. This is why for our parents, those that we keep close, right, we can forgive them because they're just people as well, trying to figure out life amongst different. It's some of them are different, some of them are the same kind of challenges, contrasts, right? Because we all know that if the deceiver can't get to you, they will try to get to your offspring to try to bring down your bloodline. Okay. So, but they tried, they went through their tests and I'm sure they didn't pass all the things. They didn't, and for you too, you did not pass all the things. Okay. But you came to the level of understanding that you are now and you're moving forward. But the whole point is God's love, the enlightenment of God's love, the united in God's love can look past these things. When I say look past, not really. It's like redemption, or what's the word? I guess redeemer. Yeah, it's like redeemers, redemption energy of gaining understanding, apologizing, and taking accountability truly on a soul level. On a soul level, which means you can't avoid, you can't run away from, you have to literally look, accept oneself for the shadow and the light, and still come to the frequency of love. That is what love really is. Okay. And not only that, to also strive to be better. Okay, if you can't do that, then we're really in a stagnant relationship. And it will just manifest in things like overconsumption somewhere else. Okay, you have to be able to be united at least under God consciousness. Okay, bare minimum. Okay, I just want to emphasize is that once you know the truth, you can still align and unite in love. Okay, once you know the truth, you can still align and unite in love. All right, here we go. Okay, security and love is perfect. See, I just said all that and I didn't realize I had another page, and I did. Almost done though. Okay, security and love. If you don't have love, you will always be insecure. If you don't have love, you're always going to be insecure. These two things go hand in hand. Okay. When you align with a certain consciousness, all you are doing is acknowledging its existence based on your perception of that reality. When you align with a certain consciousness, all you're doing is acknowledging its existence based on your perception of that reality. Okay? All these things are our levels of consciousness. I don't really have anything to expand about that. You can be manipulated by that because others can just feed you more of that reality to feed your egoic state of being right. Uh-huh. So be careful with that as you're ascending. You're going to be in resonance with certain things, and you're going to get this feeling of like, ah, right? Like, oh my God, this is an alignment, right? Now, this is why, again, I'm going back to the Christ consciousness thing of this idea of humility, is because that's just one level. There's many levels. Okay, so don't get too stuck on the resonance of being correct, because you're going to be in resonance with people and then you're going to be like, hey, you remember that thing that happened and we spoke about 300 times? I'm still right about that. And they're like, yeah, me too. You know, it's like you got to be careful because there's others who are on a different level that are able to intercept based every time you open your mouth. This is why people like myself who are on these spaces, we have to be mindful of what we're saying, because others can also use this to try to feed our egoic state of mind to keep you trapped lower and lower. Nah, the way that you can overcome ego mania, check out the video that I posted about, I think it's going to be 2 days ago from this one, that you can't live in ego in order for you to ascend. You have to be able to kill, because you have to understand you may not be right in this particular space and time. Okay, about that thing. Okay, sacrificing the ego requires to attain a high perspective. Now, there's many different people pushing wisdom. We always seek divine wisdom, okay, under the consciousness, and we unite with that consciousness of God, which is the whole, the all, the one source that created life through all things. Okay. But like I said, be mindful, because there's a lot of people who use their intellect in order to try to feed their egoic stuff, because they are addicted to attention. They're addicted to the feeling of being correct or getting the support of many. These are the people who end up being like cult leaders and stuff, who don't give reverence to God. All right, because there's levels. All right. So yeah, you only fall prey to those people who try to like feed you more pulses of you're right, you're right, you're right, if you don't know how to ascend past your lower level natures of looking for acceptance or validation from external factors. Okay, and when you're aligned with God, you really don't have time for that kind of shit. Okay. All right. All consciousness required to meet the requirements of the gates. That's okay. So that's also there to prevent you from getting into nonsense, because unfortunately there's certain things that exist in order to try to penetrate through your higher level of consciousness, right? Once you reach the level of being in heaven here in your internal consciousness, when you are meditating and being able to be at peace, you know what that feels like. You're going to be able to recognize when you are no longer in that state, right? And it's because maybe something outside of yourself is there and is trying to influence. They do this by getting weights to your heart, right? Through laughing, through dancing, things that bring natural joy to you on a natural level. Okay. this is why the song industry, the music industry, they do this kind of spell work where they do give you a good beat so they can make one line of defense come down, because you're going to enjoy the beat. And music by itself is very healing, right? Without any vocals behind it. They'll add the vocals in order to now send a message that will lower your frequency of your aura field. Okay? It's the same thing as if someone's telling a joke, right? If someone's telling a joke, you start laughing. Ha! That level of letting go releases the boundaries, or the I guess the fences that you have up, and then they might add on. That initial joke may have been not that bad and it spoke to your spirit, but then they might add something in to try to get into your consciousness. Okay, this is why it's important to be present. Be present. Okay, because there are certain gates that are required to get to your Godhead, to get into the state of heaven and consciousness. Okay, remember, you're leaving this flesh behind, but the whole point is for you to get to the realm of heaven before your flesh has died. It shows that you have matured in spirit. Okay, the gates of the Holy Trinity is the oneness of God lies there. Okay, remember, masculine, feminine, and inner child. Through all things, that's where life is. That is where life is. Okay. Feminine, masculine, inner child, whoever need to say it in that order. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay, you have that within yourself, and once you have that within yourself, you can see it reflected outside of yourself. That is the true love. Okay, and you can't manipulate it because it has checks and balances. It's already built by divine design. Okay, by divine design, the oneness of God lies there.